What is going on, EoP sports fans? It's Wednesday night. It's 8:30. It's time for EoP. I'm Big Al.
I'm Freddy Burns.
And we got a lot to cover tonight. Some big Sixers news. I mean, we're going to talk about Eagles, Dallas. Of course, it's always Dallas week is always a big week for Philadelphia fans. Flyers are playing right now, so if you're watching the Flyers, mute the Flyers because first part they're on TNT anyway. You don't care about those announcers, and you can talk with us and still keep your eye on the game because we're doing the same. Right now, it's tied 2-2 against the Flyers and Buffalo Sabres right now. And we'll touch a little bit on some Phillies talk tonight, but mainly more about the World Series. Right now, that's also going on, and the Rangers are looking to take the World Series, and the Diamondbacks are looking to keep the fight alive. But the big news coming out of Philly right now is James Harden has been traded in quite an interesting trade, to say the least, at this moment in the season. Like, normally, I would say it would happen before the season or sometime at the trade deadline, but James Harden is on his way to get what he wants, to go to LA to play for the Clippers. Fred, I mean, I'm going to go over the trade outline real quick. Then I want to get your instant reactions, and then we'll break it down a little bit piece by piece. So the Clippers get James Harden, of course, as well as PJ Tucker, and Petrusev is also in this package. And you got Rocco coming back to the Sixers, Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, KJ Martin, and you got some draft picks with an unprotected 2028 first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, a first-round pick from the Thunder, and a first-round pick swap from the Clippers. And I believe our man is here as well. Joseph, what's going on?
What's going on? Sorry, I had a hard time hooking up the Bluetooth headset. My bad.
Not a problem. You didn't miss much. I just kind of ran through that trade between the Clippers and the Sixers. With James
What trade?
Harden.
What happened?
What something happened? Yeah. And I'll start with you, Fred. Like, your instant reaction to it, and what are your feelings? Did we win? Did we lose? Or just blah?
Well, I got up at like whatever time it was, 5 in the morning. I didn't even, and then I realized he was traded, and I was just like, I don't want to say I was shocked. I was kind of shocked. I thought this was going to drag on a little further. But I'm 100% happy with the trade. I mean, actually, if you think about it, thank you, James Harden, for opting into that deal. You know, it was a summer filled with drama and a little bit of nonsense here to deal with in the beginning, but it's actually worth it. So we go from having, roughly $13 million against the cap and cap space opening up to him signing that deal, getting the 35, expanding the cap. And now we have a crap ton of assets, a ton of money going off the books, and the ability to do what we want with those assets. We can take those assets and make a trade this year and maybe try to acquire talent and be a contender right now this season, or you can stand pat, see how it goes 1 year under Nick Nurse, get his system in place with the core guys you have now, and move forward from there. But if you told me we would have got 2 unprotected first rounders, 2 twos, and then another pick swap, I'd be happy there. Then you add in, Robert Covington. He's kind of washed, but he's I didn't realize this. He's second all-time Sixers three-pointers.
Saw that.
Oh, my gosh.
He said he's going to try to come and break the record.
And the record's Allen Iverson, which he wasn't like a great three-point shooter, but he did take enough to, I guess, get there. I was really surprised by both those stats. Marcus Morris, a long-time guy I wanted to bring here. I hate it when he'd be on Boston talking crap to us. He brings that Philly toughness. He may be washed, too. He's a little old.
He's from Philly, right?
Yeah, him and his brother.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep. I think he had a Go Birds hat on today when he was in his press conference. But so I know he started with Ben Simmons and Embiid trying to fight him, the Celtics-Sixers series, he's Celtics for a little bit. Then Nicholas Batum, I feel like he's been playing since I've been in high school. That ain't even true, but he's just always in the league. He's a three-point shooter. But, again, these 3 guys are old. The one I like is KJ Martin. He's a very athletic guy, defender. He shoots 33% from 3. That isn't horrible, but he's definitely fits Nick Nurse's system. He's going to cut to the rim, be very, very active. He's young. So you may have found a nice diamond in the rough there in the trade. So overall, I think the Sixers win the trade. And Harden's going to go to the Clippers. That already looks like it's not going to pan out. You can tell the awkwardness in the locker room. It's 2 or 3 months. There's going to be drama between Westbrook and Harden, no doubt about
it. It was already awkward seeing the video earlier of him walking in the Clippers locker room. Like Russ just looked up and he was like, "Oh, here we go."
It's funny you said that because that was one of my topics I wanted to bring up. So I'm going to play the clip real fast and just see. Hey, what's going on, Mitch? Just to show you the complete awkwardness of it all.
So it's you, good? So it's you right? Cool. So make sure you stay on that side, you feel me? Straight up. All right, cool. All right. Make sure you know where you at. You see it though. You see it though. All right, cool. Turkey! Hey, what's up, Turkey?
Did he say you stay on that side? You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. He looked like a kid.
That's great.
School from a new town. He has a school bag on. He's all like walking in, real like don't do something stupid. Don't do something stupid. Like he looked awkward as all get out, and I love it because you know what? It's funny. Like I don't really understand this from a Clippers standpoint. If I'm a Clippers fan, if I'm one of the 17, I would really be, I'd be pissed right now. You have the most geriatric team right now in the LA Clippers, and they gave up a bunch of their picks coming up. So this 2028 first round pick might be a good one because if they don't do anything with it, they might be just hot garbage at that point. I'm just as a Clipper, I don't understand why you make this trade. I really don't.
Well, they're going for it now. I mean, James Harden doesn't stink.
No.
His playoff performances were, very high and very low, but the very high ones were some of the best performances we've ever seen in Philadelphia ever.
Sure.
So to put him with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, if he has one of those terrible games, it's not going to be as big of a deal. What I'm concerned is the Westbrook drama because in Houston, they had issues, and then Harden went to the management and said he's concerned about the direction of the team, and the very next day, Westbrook demanded a trade out of Houston. So, and they're already breaking stones. They play together in OKC. I don't see that. But if you're a Clippers fan, you don't care about that. You got to get this championship now, especially the owner. They got a new arena. A new, you know what I mean? They're gonna make some money with these tickets, so that I get there from their side too.
Yeah, did you guys see the? And I forget who was interviewing Doc, but it was an interview with Doc Rivers, and the interviewee asked him just flat out, like, who was more frustrating to coach? Was it Ben Simmons or was it James Harden? And as he kind of answered it directly, but more in a roundabout way. He was just saying it was James Harden because you knew James Harden had it in him to go out there and put up those performances like he did in game 1 and game 4 of whatever it was with the, what was it, triple-double, points in the 40s. Like you knew he can go out there day in, day out, night in, night out, and put up those type of performances. And that it was not the guy that he was going after to be each game last season. So, I mean, of course, he said, Simmons was frustrating as well, but for completely different reasons. But, Harden, just because he knew the talent that he had in him, was more frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what frustrated all of us as fans because like Fred, you just said, he scores 40 points in 2 different playoff games. Looks like a guy you could really, get this team on his back and run with it. But then when the time came, it was like he didn't want the ball. All he wanted was to draw a foul. He didn't even want to try to, to play. So that's where I wonder, just that's what boggles me with any player in that way. If it's Ben Simmons, we knew had the talent, but we didn't know if he could do it. Like he should have been able to do it. James Harden could do it. Like that's I think a little bit of the difference there. If I'm looking at the frustration with it, Harden had a lot of Simmons had a lot of smoke around him to go, oh, people, pumping him up. But Harden had the ability. We've seen it. Like you saw, James Harden has the abilities. There's no question about it. It's just that the frustrating part is, he's his own guy and he does what he wants, but at times it's a selfish James Harden, and that's where it hurts teams.
Yo, and I got to bring this up too. Fred, like you just said, you were up at 5 a.m. I mean, the trade didn't go down to what, like 2:30 a.m. Al, you were right on top of it, posting it. Like, what the hell are you guys doing up at these odd hours of the night? Like, my God.
I'm up at 5 every day, bro.
Jesus.
Wow. Actually, it's funny. The funniest part about it is, Joe, I was doing a lot of like video editing and doing the website updates and stuff. And I kind of just sometimes, as you know, I'll get lost in it.
Sure.
Like, I look at the time. I'm like, ugh, I gotta get to bed. It's like 2:30 in the morning. So I turn all my stuff off. I head upstairs. I lay in my. I grab my phone for some reason. I don't even know why. And I look at it. Boom! Everything just starts popping up. Bing, 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 bing. Harden traded to the Clippers. Harden traded to the Clippers. So I'm like, well, I gotta post it. I'm not gonna go to sleep now. So I took an extra 15 minutes to make sure it happened.
I'll say that was awesome because I sent that to you guys in our group text, like, hey, because you two do majority of the posting, and if I find info, obviously I send it to you. So I'm like, oh man, hopefully that one of them, because I suck at it, you guys are great at it. Hopefully one of them get it, and then I look and I see it was up. I'm like, oh my god, awesome! We already got it posted.
Yeah, that for sure was not me.
My insomnia paid off one time.
Everyone now, please go to EoPsports.com. Go like and subscribe right now. We really appreciate the support. Keep the comments coming in. We love sharing them and talking and going back and forth with all the fans. So thank you very much.
You know what's funny is, like, the day that this all went down was the same day as the NFL trade deadline, and Hallie is notorious for being on the phones, getting the deal done, especially right up against the wire at 4 o'clock. And who would have thought that the only trade coming down that day would have been from the Sixers?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even Morey who by a lot of the reports coming out, and today in the press conference it seemed like he did like it, but like basically the NBA intervened, like, get this done. We're not going to have James Harden sit out after we put this rule in that no one's sitting out anymore, and made them get the deal done. Basically, the Clippers owner, Bomber, and then and Josh Harris got on the phone together and worked this out for the GMs to get it done.
That's one of the takes I'm taking from it, because at first when I was reading about that part of it, it kind of sounded like the NBA stepped in and told Daryl Morey to get the job done, or told the Sixers, I should say, get the job done. But the fact that they went to both owners and not just Josh Harris and said, get this up, like, makes me feel a little bit better about it, because it was like a measuring contest, if you know what I mean, between the two GMs on who's going to balk first. And I'll be honest with you, I love the trade. I really do. My only question of it is obviously Harden's gone and PJ Tucker's gone, and they traded for 4 players. Where are the 2 other roster spots coming from?
Well, Petrosev's one, and then
was he on the active roster?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And then I think he actually played
Danny Green. Danny Green, that's right.
And then they waived Danny Green. So then that gets you to where you need to be.
Thank God. They didn't need Danny Green on this team anyway.
Well, I mean, listen,
4 going, 4 in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they got picks out of it. I mean, that's one thing that the Sixers team was missing because of all the moves that they were trying to make throughout these, and they had to give up something to get rid of Simmons. I'm just glad to see that they're going to have something to look forward to from the youth. But also, I mean, the big story of it all is we all knew kind of coming into the season that the Sixers really were looking forward towards next year more than this year. Nick Nurse's second year, but you also have, they're looking right now, projected cap is $142 million. You're going to owe a little over 51 for Embiid, and Maxi's on the cap hold about 13 million. That's 65. That gives them about $65 million in space. So you could sign another big time name and even use some of this capital if you need to go get a big name who maybe isn't a free agent this year and make a trade or something. You have players to do it with as well. So, they can definitely make a splash, and maybe this is what keeps Joel Embiid happy as a Sixer, because I know one thing I worried about going into this year between the James Harden drama or whatever you want to call it, and this team just, and then watching Boston and Milwaukee like make some big moves, it really started to make people feel like, the Sixers might be, maybe the 5th or 6th in the East. We don't know, like, just the way it's signing up, but I don't know. We will see what Nick Nurse can do, and we'll see what he can do with these young guys. Already, Fred. Just looking, I know it's only been 3 games so far at regular season. I mean, from Nick Nurse, from the moves they made, I mean, we see Maxey, and I think the big part about this trade is Maxey is finally. It always was Embiid, somebody else, and Maxey. Now I feel it's Embiid and Maxey, at least at this point. And I think Maxey will definitely. I mean, so far in 3 games we've seen a lot from him, but I think going forward this will be his big growth year for him. I mean, what do you guys see so far in just 3 games so far with Nick Nurse?
Well, before I say that, one underrated part of that deal is getting off the PJ Tucker contract as well. That's $10 million this year, and especially $11.5 million this year. And then KJ Martin's only $2.1 million. They also have it could be a $6 to $11 million trade exception included, depending on the deal they make. So they have another $11 million roughly to play with, as far as they expand that cap, which with the weird NBA rules, which is pretty cool. But as far as Nick Nurse, I gotta apologize to a lot of people. So, Doc Rivers, I didn't think he was a great coach. I didn't think he was an awful coach, but I really thought like coaching in the NBA was just kind of blah. I was just like, it doesn't move the needle one way or another. And, these are stars, and then it's a star league and stars play. And, there are good coaches that can move it a bit, but I just didn't. I thought the whole the Doc thing was overblown. I thought he was on Harden, and Harden like that. He got Embiid to get in the post. There were some good things he did, but my gosh, Nick Nurse, it is night and day watching this guy running offense. They are just legit fun to watch. Everyone's active. Everyone's cutting to the basket. Embiid's averaging 3.7 blocks a game, the most of his career. I know it's 3 games, but he's protecting the rim. There was one sequence where he just stayed below. He just let the 3-point shooter out there drain the threes. Now, if Al Horford drained 6 threes, we're going to be complaining about that. But if you have a matchup where that guy's not hitting threes, that was genius. Don't even bring Embiid out there. Have him down low. The communication of passing between him and Maxey, there was this one, I think Dives might have posted it, or no, some other guy did. I shared it on my Twitter, but the back and forth passing between Maxey and Embiid and moving without the ball ended up, I think they went back and forth 5 or 6 times, and it ended up a corner 3 by Maxey. So I just think you look at this team, you see Kelly Oubre, he was 0 for 6 from 3, still at 18 points, was active, contributes. All the players on the court are contributing in one way or another as far as just playing the game the right way, moving the ball around. It's fun basketball. It really is. The transition, getting down the field, trying to get the court, getting those open dunks, layups. I'm really impressed and excited. Only three games in, and even his interviews, Nick Nurse, after, he's very not praising them. I remember Doc would gush, he's just the MVP of this league. He's just so great, blah 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 blah. And Nick Nurse is just not that. He's almost like that's what we expect him to do. Yes, that was really good. Very straightforward and even keel and serious. I'm excited, man.
And he's less douchey, I guess, too. Because he always had those moments. Oh, let's go on the Paul Reed World Tour, or let's, it's like there's a point where the coach gets over cocky, and it becomes like almost grandstanding at that point, and it drives me nuts. And I know it's something to nitpick on, but that's one thing about Doc I didn't like. Just how dare you question me? How dare you? Hey, remember I won a championship back in 2008? That's great. Well, that was a long time ago. It was a lifetime ago. And like I said, I get some coaches are more to their vets or their key guys. He didn't worry about, taking young guys and bringing them under their wing and working with them. And I think Nick Nurse just looks at the entire team and says, okay, what can I get out of these guys? And I think that's a big difference, and it's going to help down the line.
Well, since you bring up Paul Reed, one thing, the dude needs to stop shooting 3-pointers. I have no idea. Why with the shooting they have out there on that court, why is Paul Reed up at the top of the key shooting 3-pointers? It needs to stop. I have a big question when it comes to Kelly Oubre, because in the sample size of 3 games, the guy seems really good, and he brings this like electric to the roster. I love him coming off the bench, but for what they say is the short term, he's going to be the 5th starter. Why is this kid on his 5th different team? Like, it's almost like Tobias Harris, how we were questioning why he's been on 5 different teams. We now know, but I mean, like, to your point about his 3-point shooting the other night, Fred, like, it's just because like he has spotty shooting? Like, what haven't I seen from this kid that explains why he's on his 5th or 6th team by now?
I mean, he averaged 20 points a game last year. I think he was as shocked as anyone that he didn't get a good contract this year, you know? He's going to have games where you're pissed off at him, though.
Yeah.
He's
very streaky from what I understand.
But, Al, there's the word I'm seeing a difference, though. Again, it's 3 games, but, like, he was streaky. He went 0 for 6 from 3, but he still scored 18 points and was hustling and making plays. So maybe Nick Nurse's style fits him better. But he's athletic.
Yeah.
He's what Daniel House was supposed to be, or what Daniel House was when he was good, in a sense. But he is going to do some head scratching things in big games. The opponents haven't been the greatest we went up against besides Milwaukee. But there's going to be a game where you're like, oh my God, well, are you kidding me, dude? But yeah, we don't need him to be the star though. If he wants to, this role might be perfect for him. He's probably going to be gone though after this year, because if he plays like this, he will command he is in a contract year too. I don't know. My buddies on my text that know the Sixers probably more than me try to like calm me down on him too. I'm excited about him. I like him. I like guys that give effort. Like, effort can't be taught. And when you give effort when you're shooting bad, I love that. That makes me like, all right, this guy's here to play. So we'll see. Game 60 where he's at though.
Yeah.
Can they extend players in the season like other sports?
I think
if he plays up to like the All-Star game and beyond, like playing this level of, averaging 25, I mean, they are going to have money next season. Like, can they extend him now knowing that they're going to have that available cap space?
I think as long as he's under contract on your team, you can do whatever you want with him.
Okay.
I mean, if you can cut him, why can't you extend him? In my eyes, I mean, it just seems silly not to.
Depending on what that number is, he may not want to do that.
Sure.
They haven't even signed Maxey yet because they're trying to see what happens and play the contract game. So, but yeah, they could if they wanted.
Yeah. And it's funny the way you described him too, Fred. I mean, he does kind of sound like Tobias Harris at times. I mean, there is games Tobias Harris plays just out of his mind. You're like, okay, there's the guy that we paid for. And then there's times Tobias Harris kind of disappears. And I think the difference between him and Tobias Harris is simply in some ways is simply the money. Like, if you're gonna have a guy who's streaky, but you're paying him, league minimum-ish type money, you're just like you expect that. But when you pay somebody superstar money and you're not getting superstar, production out of them, that's the difference. I mean, that's kind of in my eyes what you just explained to me, like a guy who can really be great and really turn on and maybe at times even carry this team and show the hustle. But then maybe at times he might disappear. So, and let's see how he does against. But again, like Tobias Harris, is it a fit thing? Did he take 4 or 5 teams for him to finally go, this is the system that fits me best?
Well, I mean, speaking of Tobias Harris, he's another guy that's playing great. He's averaging 19.7 a game in these 3 games. He is very efficient. He's moving without the ball. He's fitting with Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse said this guy needs to be 20 points a game. Like, we can't even blink. That's what he needs to give us. And so far, he's off by 0.3 of a point, and he's playing really well. So, I mean, it might just all be Nurse and ball movement and everyone involved. I don't know.
If I'm being honest, like, I've been walking around with like a black cloud over my head since last Tuesday. Like, I have not been able to shake this NLCS, heartache. But I feel like the Sixers are starting to get me out of it because, I mean, they have their next game tomorrow night. We have the new additions. We get to see Kelly Oubre in a little bit of an expanded role being a starter. And I'm excited for tomorrow's game. I want to see how they come out and start to really, again, 3-4 games in, but with that more playing time, they're going to start gelling more, and they're going to know exactly where they're all going to be on the court at what time and what needs to be done. I'm excited to see how this plays out.
Well, dude, I just looked it up. I can't believe this. Harris is shooting 55% from 3 on 3.7 attempts per game.
Wow.
It's 3 games. I remember when we got all excited about bully ball in studio a few years ago.
Yeah.
But this is different though. This is basketball.
I think the difference comes in is the drama's washed away, because that's the thing is, every season, postseason and in season, there's been some sort of drama. How long will it be before Ben Simmons is gone? Ben Simmons' back hurt. Ben Simmons was making up reasons why he didn't want to be put into the game in the playoffs. And then, okay, we finally got rid of Ben Simmons. We got a guy in James Harden who is a superstar in the league usually. And more drama ensues. Like it's been more of a soap opera than the basketball season. Like
it really has.
You look at like take Miami for instance. You have a superstar on that team. You have some stars and some really good players surrounding him, but superstars you have just Jimmy Butler, right? I mean, is there any other real superstar in Miami? Like maybe that's kind of something we have to look at here. Maybe again, we always say there's only one ball to go around, and also too many egos to feed can be a problem too. Like we just talked about, Oubre finding the right fit for him. Well, maybe we have to find the right fit for this team. Like if Embiid's going to be out there, and if Maxey can step up and be the guy who could put up 25-ish points, a game on average, then maybe you don't need another superstar per se. That's just it right there. I mean, like I don't know if you're clapping at me or something happened. But
I am.
Okay,
Remember we were talking about this, and I'm like, it's not really a stop year. Remember we were talking about the stop year, and I'm like, dude, it's not really a stop year if Maxey takes the next step, and he is. He looks like an all-star. He's finding open guys. Like he learned a lot from Harden. As much as Harden was a pain in the neck, like he taught Maxey. He was a good player, and he's been a high level in this NBA. And when he was playing point guard the way he should have the first half of the year, like with the assists and all that, I love that Harden. ISO Harden, not so much. And Maxey is elevating his game. We have the 2 stars, and if you look at who won the NBA championship, it was Jokic. Who's the other star? Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray hasn't even made an all-star yet in this league. He might this year, and then the year before that, it's Giannis with a bunch of good players, good to above average players. I personally think the day of the super team is done. It doesn't work unless you draft it like the Warriors did and like the Sixers might be doing right now. I don't think it works. And I agree with you. Like, let's roll with this squad. Let's not add another ego. You know what I mean? Let's go get an Anunoby from the Toronto Raptors. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe Zach LaVine. I don't think he has an ego. Get a guy that's not the clout where we're like, oh, they're a lock to win it all. Because the lock to win it all, I feel like never wins it all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, with whatever assets we have now from the James Harden trade, I don't think that they need to go out and rush and get a superstar, whether it's this season or the offseason. I mean, if this team, I really like this team right now. I really do. I mean, even from the front 5 to D'Anthony Melton that's what you have. Another thing you have to look at: Marcus Morris, KJ Martin, Nick Baton, whatever, however you say his name. It solidifies their bench. This is something that the Sixers haven't had in so long. They actually have guys coming off this bench. Regardless of it's 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, they have talented guys coming off this bench now that's going to put points on the board.
And one thing we've always complained about the Sixers or what hurt the Sixers was depth. So now you can use this to build more depth and have guys. I mean, that's what where we were getting beat in the playoffs in the second round, where the Celtics would pull people off their bench and still give us fits. The problem is once Embiid left the game or James Harden wasn't having a good game or vice versa, we had nothing else to lean on. Occasionally guys would step up. Miami, again, use them as the example. They would have guys that step up. I mean, right now, and I know it's early. I mean, the early on with Dame in Milwaukee is, they haven't really
He's so
played
good.
together.
He's so good, though.
I know, but I'm saying they haven't even played together. They haven't played them at the same time for that much. They've been more not together than they have been together. Now, again, maybe they're trying to feel it out and see how it fits and all that stuff. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be like, half a season from now. But I'm just saying sometimes there is a point where you can have too many superstars or too many egos or too many whatever and not move forward. I'd rather have young guys or, guys in their prime who can facilitate, who can be a sharpshooter, who can be a defensive player, where the ego's not going to be an issue. And then you have to maybe worry about paying them giant contracts where then, okay, now you got two really good guys, and then the drop off is significant.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like even back, years ago when it was coming down to the Brooklyn Nets and the big three that were there, including James Harden, KD, and Kyrie. Like on paper, you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, like who's going to beat that team? But then you have to really think about it. Like, well, there's only one ball. And they're all going to, want it and have a command for it. And they don't want any of their shots taken away from another person. So the egos do come into play. There's only one ball. So, I mean, you don't need these, 2, 3, 4, 5 superstars on a roster. You need to have a solid team that's going to play well behind a superstar.
I love it.
Looking for a Tyler Hero type guy, you know what I mean? And they're instead of looking for, like you said, Joe, that superstar, that other component.
And the core is now here for 3 years, 4 years. We're not. Remember, we'd have Redick, and then we'd have Ben, and then Jimmy, then trade him, then the next guy, a new star's in. The Maxey, Tobias, and Embiid are the core. Are now coming on their 4th year together, and I think that's a benefit because now we have an actual team that knows each other with a coach that can actually identify weaknesses and do different things that make adjustments that put them in the positions to be better. And he's going to hold them accountable if they don't.
In other pieces, real quick, if you guys want to get out to some Sixers games, the best way to do it is go get your ticket.
All right, guys, it's time to.
All right, wrong one, guys. I hit the video one instead of the actual image. There you go.
You just gave me PTSD, damn it.
Sorry. Sherry'sTickets.com. Check them out. This is where you get your tickets for sports, concerts, theaters, you name it, they got it. Sherry'sTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Great prices. You see the price on the screen. That will be the price you pay. You will not get bamboozled at checkout. You will see that price, and then you'll save yourself an additional 10% off using that great promo code EoP10. That's right, EoP10 will save you additional 10% off those great prices at Sherry'sTickets.com. Go there, Sherry'sTickets.com. Use them often. So, Joe, we're going to change gears here a little bit, and I want to talk your Philadelphia Eagles because it is Dallas week. Eagles versus Dallas is coming up this Sunday at 4:25 game. I will be in the stands there checking out that game. With that being said, I feel like all right, let me ask you, what is your pulse of the city or the fan base right now? Since you are in the social media with everybody, you're feeling like, is it overconfident, just enough confidence, scared? Like what is your feeling on the pulse of this team right now, or this fan base right now?
If I'm being totally honest, like I feel like when it comes to Dallas week, I think the initial reaction is, okay, here we go, it's Dallas week. But then the reaction kind of like it just kind of slips away. Like I almost don't feel like there's that much of a rivalry anymore between these two. Like, of course, we all hate the Dallas Cowboys, like us, but like the newer generation, like I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, and like they barely talk about it on there. And when they do, it's the older generation talking about, Barry Switzer and Emmett and Troy and all these guys from the 90s and, and the crumb bums that are still affecting us now. But I don't feel like it's that big of a thing anymore. Like Dallas is like, I think Dallas in the last, and again, I heard this earlier, so don't quote me on the number. I think out of the last 11 games, like Dallas has beaten the Eagles like 8 out of 11 times. And what have the Eagles done, in the span of those 11 games? Like they've won a Super Bowl. They've, obviously been to the playoffs more. They've been to another Super Bowl appearance. Like it doesn't matter exactly what the Eagles and Dallas do in the regular season because we know Dallas chokes at the end of their season. And as long as we, continue to win and worry about, the next game ahead of us and not looking past, to a division game or, the Niners game or something like that, as long as the Eagles can keep in the right, headspace and just go out there and play whoever's is in front of them. Like, I don't think that they even care about the rivalry when it comes to Dallas and all that hype. Like, I just think things are different these days. Like, I hate the Cowboys, but I know somebody who is 10 years younger than me probably hates a different team. It could be the Niners. Like, I think times are different right now. But to me, it's Dallas week.
Yeah. I mean, do you think right now, like, you'll get more energy out of this for the week leading up to the Niners?
Absolutely, I do.
Fred?
Maybe this year you will, just because of what the Niners fan base, crying on Twitter and social media. I still think it's Dallas week for a lot of people, and I think you see on Twitter all the people going back and forth with all the Cowboys fans. It might not be as intense on the radio. I don't know if that generation even calls into the radio, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But I still think the hate for Dallas is there. That stadium will echo Dallas sucks loud and it'll be abrupt. But you are right, Joe, in a sense that the edge is taken off because we're just we're the class of the NFC East. And like when we grew up, we weren't the class of the NFC East. We were known as like trash, and the big star was stepping on you in the 90s. So we hated them like a lot more. But as I've grown, I've learned that like I don't even give a care. Any Cowboys fan that's in this area that grew up around here and that has an opinion on football, I don't even care. Like I used to argue with people, and I just don't even care anymore. They're not even worth my energy. For them to grow up and hear and root for that team is just such craziness to me. It's like, I just don't even need to be a part of a loser mentality, a front runner mentality, a weak, soft mentality. And I think that's part of it too. Like we've learned, like, why am I arguing with this guy? Like, who cares what Cowboy Dave says on WIP this week? Like, who cares? Like this guy, who gives a crap? Like, and we're so much better and we had so much more success. But still, when it gets down there on Sunday and you see that star, it still gets me fired up. And I know my kids, they don't know any better, but I just train them, One of my two-year-old, well, he's 2 and 3 months, already is saying Dallas sucks. And then my buddy just follows it up with clear Dallas sucks. It's like, so maybe that's part of it too, but it's on the radio too. My wife even said like, "Oh, we just heard him say Dallas sucks on the radio." Like you're just allowed to say that. That was a curse when we were little.
Well, yeah, you could. Yeah, if you said, "Oh, this sucks," your parents were like, "Don't talk like that."
Stinks.
But if you said Dallas sucks, they're like, "Okay, you got away with it."
It's funny. This started last season. I think it was, I forget what game it was, but Dallas was playing somebody on the TV. And I was saying to Drew, like, Drew, you see that team in blue? That team is stupid. So now every time when I say it, I'm going to go, buddy, what team is stupid? He goes, the Dallas Cowboys. And so, like, I'm teaching him as well. And, like, of course, his mother and, like, great mother, like, do you really think he should be saying something is stupid? Yes. I'm like, listen, when it comes to the Cowboys, absolutely. Seriously, anything other than that, I'll talk them down from it.
Your teacher probably wouldn't call you about that. Like the teacher wouldn't be like, "All right, Mr. Sheeran, just want to let you know your son said the Cowboys suck." If they said anything else sucks, they'd probably call you about it or email you about it. It's like,
oh yeah, they would get a kick out of it, no doubt.
I think Steve come in here brings up a good point too. We just know what Dak and McCarthy was going to do. We're not threatened by them, so that does lose. That's where the rivalry I think is lost. I'm not scared of them. I have no fear whatsoever. Anthony. And if we lose, to your point, Joe, we just move on. Where before when we lost, it was like, what the heck? Where now we're like, just like you said, like I have no respect or fear for them anymore. And maybe that's where the edge is lost.
And back in the day, people would say, when the Eagles weren't good, they would say, our Super Bowl is against Dallas. You can lose to anybody other than Dallas. Dallas is a must win. Well, guess what? Dallas, that's not our Super Bowl anymore. We're playing in actual Super Bowls. So that's what I mean. Like it doesn't, like you're saying, like oh, okay, some cockroach, local Cowboy fan says something. You don't even have it in you to argue with them anymore. That to me shows that a little bit of the rivalry is gone as well, because you don't care as much, because the Eagles, like you said, are the class act of the NFC. Hell, just call it the NFL for that matter.
One thing, and I like I said, we don't want to look ahead, but I do look at one thing because we know that we're going to be on the bye next week, and then that we have that stretch that we've all been talking about. Because the Cowboys, and if they win, this week, they have a less of a stretch to deal with, because coming up they have, I believe they go into the Giants and then Carolina, the Commanders on Thanksgiving after they just gave up a bunch of their big defensive players, and then Seattle. So their tough stretch is actually at the end of the season, because then they go Seattle, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Detroit.
Sweet.
Up to the last game of the season. So like it's funny how they're making this all about that, but again, I kind of agree with you guys. Like, I don't, as long as the Eagles play mistake-free football, like they they don't play like they did against the Jets, I'm not worried about it. I'm not like Micah Parsons, great player. They always seem to handle him well. Their linebacker core is a little depleted with injuries. Their secondary is still pretty good, but I think overall we have a better quarterback. Not to say Dak's not a good quarterback. I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. He's a good quarterback to a point. He plays well against Philly, but also don't remember, this team has not. I mean, these like full Eagles team, meaning like Dak isn't injured and Jalen isn't injured. They haven't played together, I think, since 2021, right? They didn't play against them in the last game of the 2021 season. Last year, Dak was hurt for the first game of the Eagles Dallas, and Jalen was hurt in the last game.
Who's their backup? Who's their backup last year?
For the who?
Was that Cooper Rush?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, that's
wow.
what we played. We remember, and they were actually doing pretty good. And like, oh, don't worry, we don't need Dak. We can beat the Eagles, and then we stomp them, and go. What, we were like 6-0 at that point, I believe, or something like that. 5-0, 6-0. But that's my point. Like, if you think about it, Dak versus, like, everybody was talking about Tua versus Jalen because of the whole Alabama thing. But Dak and Jalen haven't gone up against each other. I think I said like early 2001, right?
I'm drawing a blank on that. I didn't know that Dak was injured.
We didn't play him the last game of the 2021 season. Well, we sat everybody. Remember,
Dak was injured the first game last year, and then Hurts was injured the second.
So
okay,
it would be as early as time they both went up against each other. Would have been our first game in 2021.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's gonna. I think it's gonna put a lot of critics to bed, and like, the one thing the Eagles they played a lot of gritty games, I guess you want to call them, like games you kind of had to really, like games that they maybe either should have put teams away a little earlier, or teams that they shouldn't let hung around as much. And then of course the Jets game, they had a bad game and the Jets had a good game and just equaled out for them. But Dallas, either if they don't get up, and they rely on their defense, they rely on a lot on turnovers. If the Eagles can keep the turnovers down, I think Dallas is going to be in for a long game.
Well, I think one of the things is we can't really. You can't give Dak much of a hard time about the turnovers, because Jalen Hurts has been a turnover machine so far this season, and that's something that has to get fixed right away. And this is the perfect week for them to figure this out, because actually, I should say this. I think there's going to be less opportunities for Jalen to turn the ball over, because I think that they go run heavy this game. I think they're going to show everyone, like Juergens is I think 90% supposed to be back. They opened up the 21-day window. He'll return back to practice. So I believe they're going to have their offensive line back at full strength. And we saw what DeAndre Swift can do behind that line, given enough opportunities. And when you come off a game against the Commanders, another tough division game, and they rush the ball 4 times, or give or take 1 or 2, I think that's going to show a sign. I think they're going to make the added needed adjustments, and they're going to become a run heavy team this week, because you can run the ball on Dallas. So I think taking the ball out of Jalen's hands, I don't know, 20% less, I think that could work wonders for this team.
One criticism they've been getting lately is that the Eagles run game has been a little less than it was in the beginning of the season. But at the same time, I'm not as worried about it. And I'm going to get your guys' feel on this. I'm not as worried about it, because it's not like they're not running that well, and they're also not getting a lot in the passing game. It's just the passing game has been ridiculous. I mean, last week you had 4 touchdowns, 2 to A.J. Brown, 1 to Devonta Smith, and 1 to Swift, right? Swift had
Julio.
Julio, yeah. And that's my point. Of course, if it's going to go there, something's going to take a hit. You're not going to, I mean, unless you're just destroying a team like by 50 plus points, you're not going to have, 200-yard rushing and 3 guys with 4 different touchdowns. Like, I don't know.
But you're doing the overall body of work there, and you're forgetting that in the first half they ran the ball 1 or 2 times, and the second half they started a balanced offense, which in turn opened up the pass, and then they were able to put 28 on the board the second half of that game. So, like, I think that's more what fans don't want, like, them to run the ball 50-50 and be the 1990s, but you got to have an honest offense. I mean, they were struggling. The turnover happened. Obviously, that would have been a touchdown, but so they probably would have had 7 more. But I do think they have to run the football. Like, they have to balance the offense. There's no plan, it feels like, with this guy.
You know what bothers me about that fumble is I understand the success rate that they've had with the tush push, but when Jalen Hurts is, you can see that he has a limp with his knee as he's trying to, get up the field. He should not be put in those situations like that. And again, I understand it's a tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to talk about. You need Jalen Hurts to stay healthy. And when you're going to put him in a position like that, he could get hurt from that. Like, he has a bad knee at the moment, bruised bone, whatever you want to call it. And him trying to, go through 1,000 pounds of player to go, 3 feet into the end zone. I don't think that that's a smart play at that point.
He is running. I don't know what's going on. You're right, but he is running. He had 9 carries. He's still scrambling and all that. I think the fumble, actually, Kelsey took fault for that.
Did.
It was the snap
He did
today, but it is a guaranteed touchdown. I don't know how much injury he gets from that, but I guess I see your point, though. If you're got a bone bruise and you're trying to push through all these linemen, but maybe it's not. I do like the variation they did with Swift, though.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, like,
that was beautiful.
Imagine they start like a little offense out of this by the end of the year that the NFL can't cancel it because it's this dynamic thing. But you're right. You bring up a good point there. Like, if he's that hurt, why don't then you guarantee yourself a touchdown too at the same time. If he holds on the ball, it's a touchdown.
Well, real quick, 2 things. Speaking of injury, Jalen Hurts was asked again today how his knee's doing. I don't know if anybody saw that in the press conference, but I'm going to play the clip for you real quick.
Jalen, I got to ask. Anything new with the knee? Feel better? Feel worse? Different? Anything? Okay, that's what I thought. Thanks. It's worth a shot.
I love it. Like, I absolutely love it.
Trying to answer that question. I'm out of here. But it was funny. I just thought that was funny. But real quick, before we bounce back and talk more Eagles, I remind you guys that got a lot going on here, and we're talking about Dallas coming to town. And you can go to phillysportstrips.com right now and sign up for the tailgate if you want to. But if you're like, I want to go see them stomp Dallas on their home field, again, phillysportstrips.com is the place to go. December 8th through the 11th, you can head down to Dallas with Philly Sports Trips and all the great fans. Get the hotel, get the flight, get the ticket, get the food, the tailgate, the experience. You'll never forget. phillysportstrips.com. And if you don't want to wait till then, you can still sign up for this one, the great Kansas City trip that's coming up in just a couple weeks. Check it out. Go to phillysportstrips.com. Enjoy them. Tell them EoP sent you. Have a great time. And like I said, an unforgettable experience. So my question to you guys was, I was kind of going through the list of all the transactions at the deadline. And, Joe, you put a post up earlier that kind of made me think about this, that the Eagles weren't getting enough. They're saying that people weren't saying they did anything, but they went and got Kevin Byard. Just they didn't do it on the last day of the trade deadline.
Right.
So all the trades to me made sense except for one for the most part. Was the Bears and Commanders trade for Montez Sweat. The Bears, who are 2-6 right now, they gave up a 2nd-round pick for Montez Sweat, who's up at the end of this year. So there's no guarantee that you're going to re-sign him, and there's probably a slim chance in hell that you even make a playoff run, let alone anything else. Can somebody please explain this, or is it just the Bears are a dysfunctional organization?
I think the Bears went into it thinking that they would be able to extend them right away, but then I read something today saying that he was like no, I'm going to see how my surroundings are when it comes closer to the offseason. And we all know that the Bears have over $100 million in available cap space next season. So I think they just thought that it was like a given that he's going to want a large contract, and they had the money to provide one for him. I mean, we all talked about this in our group text. Like they are such a bottom feeder of a team. Why would they give up a second round pick, one that you could almost consider a first round pick? I mean, I don't see the need for it. I mean, they don't even have Justin Fields in the playing under center right now. It's such a head scratcher. Like even their own media, Clay Harbor, I read his stuff, and he's like, what is this organization doing by not even checking with Sweat before the trade goes through to see if he has an interest to extending the contract for years to come? Like, it just seems like they're doing things ass backwards, and that's why they're in the position that they are right now.
I mean, the other thing is you're firing coaches for some crazy stuff. Like you said, like they're not a good team right now. Justin Fields is just not what they were hoping he would be this year. They were hoping to take a nice step forward. That has not been working out for the Bears. And it just boggles my mind why you would do that. Because like you said, Montez might go, why would I want to sign here?
Exactly.
What's going on here? Like, unless you're going to sign me some crazy money. What was he, like 27 years old? I was like, I thought like a team like the Niners or a team like the Seahawks or Eagles or anybody would want them because they're trying to bolster something, because they're trying to make a push. But when you give up a second round pick for a guy that's not going to be guaranteed here next year, makes zero sense to me, and just goes to show you that, how one organization, Eagles, versus another organization, Bears, can make a huge difference. Fred, what do you think? I didn't give you a chance to talk. I feel bad. I talked over you.
I mean, the Bears are gonna Bears. I mean, I don't even know why the Commanders got rid of them either. Like,
well,
you build a team with up front on the defensive line and the offensive line. That's how you build championship teams. You get rid of both of them who are young when you already have them in house. It's just not good. I don't get it.
I can kind of understand the Commanders.
When you go try to draft these exact players, they were trying to get rid of Jonathan Allen too. Aren't these the guys you would want to go draft in your draft next year? Well, you already have them. You could just go add pieces around.
I think.
Yeah, it's stupid.
I think the Commanders. I think Ron Rivera's gone after this year. There's been rumors that they're going to try. Like Josh Harris wants to court Bill Belichick.
That's actually what I was just going to say. I was going to say they're building up their draft capital so they can offer it to the Patriots for Billy Boy.
Which I don't understand that either.
Billy Boy without talent is nothing, as we can see.
That's what I'm saying. That again, that's the Commanders being the Commanders, even without Dan Snyder at the helm. Josh Harris is a less dummy version of Josh Harris or of Dan Snyder, but not much less in this case. And here's the thing: is I can understand the Commanders, right?
I mean, he's got the Devils rolling. The Sixers were at the ground. I mean, even though they haven't won anything, they're contenders every year. The Devils are now contenders. I don't think he's as trash as everyone makes him out to be.
No, but I think they know the Commanders are not a team that are going to make waves, and maybe it's probably going to take like 2-3 years for them to. They don't have a quarterback yet, unless Sam Howell they maybe don't believe in just yet. I'm not saying he can't be, but
he's playing good, man.
He is playing good, especially against the Eagles. He just always seems to be an Eagle killer. Well, luckily we do enough just to beat him, but he does make it difficult even when the team's not that good. But Joe, you also made another post about you weren't understanding the people's going crazy about the Chase Young going to the Niners.
Yeah.
I can understand
a lot of comments on that one.
Yeah, I can understand a little bit because Chase Young has a pedigree to be good. He was on a bad Commanders team. Now he's going to a good Niners team, and he's playing with a guy he's familiar with in Bosa. And a change of scenery going from the Commanders to Niners could really reinvigorate somebody. And a reinvigorated Chase Young could scare me a little bit. And this will be the third time we see him this year, most likely. And if the playoffs play out the way it could be 4 times in a year you see Chase Young on the other side of the ball.
I don't feel like Washington had that bad of a defense, though. I mean, they definitely had their moments of, being awful, I guess you can say. But I thought on paper, like, they were a pretty good defense, again, especially from the sample size we see them playing against the Eagles. I don't get the whole Chase Young thing. I didn't think that he was that big of a name coming out of college. Like, Ohio State, whatever. I don't care. But still, I don't like his name does nothing for me. And I feel like that is how, like, the direction that the NFL has gone. Like, it's just about these names. Like, these guys are dropping second round picks on these guys who have been in the league and number one, if people want to say, oh, well, how many games did he play for Washington? Okay, so what are you saying? That he's injury prone? Which is it? Is he not good or is he injury prone? That's what I don't get about these trades. Like, it does nothing. It doesn't scare me going against the Niners coming up in December. It didn't scare me the first 2 times we played Washington this season. Like, I don't understand why everyone is up in arms about him going to the Niners.
Well, I think being up in arms is probably ridiculous, but to say that doesn't help the Niners in a good way is I feel is wrong. I think he is going to help. He's going to help. It's going to help him from a career standpoint. And I said what you're saying, Joe. Washington has a very good defense. Now sans him and Montez, that's a big drop off. But at the same time, it's kind of the whole overarching losing mentality that they have. That even though the defense is good, the offense isn't working out or whatever. I think being on a team that is, I want to say guaranteed, unless they fall apart, but looks like they're on the right path to going to the playoffs versus being on a team that just looks like they're in for a letdown halfway through the season already. I can reinvigorate a guy. Again, is this make or break my thoughts?
Let me ask you. Yeah. Let me ask you. Last year, NFC Championship game, if Chase Young was on that team, would it worry you anymore? I mean, they still have the same defense in place. They just now have Chase Young. Like, even if he was a Niner last year, I want to like. D'Amico Ryans is gone. Like it doesn't instead fear to me.
No, again, I'm not talking about being, oh my God, this team's gonna be so much better now. They got him, but I'm saying it does make them better. I'm not saying make them.
We don't know that.
Yeah,
we don't know that.
That's what my thought is. Like, listen. One of the last places I would want him to go to would be like the Niners or Seahawks or the Cowboys, like teams that really could give us a fit in the playoffs. Going to like a Montez going to the Bears, even if the Bears were a better team, I'm not super worried about that. It's just going to a team that could be a barrier between us and a return to the Super Bowl. It's a plus in their column. Is it an overall plus where I'm like, that's it, Eagles, pack it in. You ain't going to do nothing for the rest of the year. No, I'm not saying that at all.
He's going to be going up against the same offensive lineman that he went up against when we played Washington. Like, it's going to be the same outcome.
We'll find out. Like I said, I'm not like sitting there shaking in my boots, but we'll find out. Fred, what do you think?
I think this is a great Commanders and Bears podcast, but can we get back to the Eagles and the Cowboys this week?
Sure. All right. So
the rivalry's over. We're not talking Eagles Dallas.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into it, Fred. Like, you want to talk Eagles Dallas? Let's look at this. What's going to be the difference maker for the Eagles to beat Dallas this week? Is it going to be the secondary on the defense? Is it going to be A.J. Brown doing A.J. Brown stuff 7 weeks into the year, and perpetuating his 125 plus yard streak? Or like, what do you see being the difference maker for the Eagles?
Well, I think defensively, you got the Cowboys are even with the injuries they had, I thought they would fall off. I'm pretty sure they're the second ranked as far as yards goes, giving up pass D in football. And if our strength is passing, that's a matchup there. But I think the main concern is the Commanders, Eric Bieniemy, discovered the blueprint to rip our defense into shreds week after week. Because if Sam Howell can do it, and I don't think Dax is – I think he's overrated a lot sometimes because he has the star on his helmet. But if he's definitely better than Sam Howell. And, with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, I just think, and then you got the running back's escaping my name. Tony
Pollard.
Pollard out of the backfield. They used Dowdell as well. You got Tony Ferguson there. Brandon Cooks, the other speed receiver there. I can't help but think that McCarthy's going to come out with a game plan that's get the ball out fast and attack the middle. And are we going to be able to stop this Cowboy offense? I'm very concerned about that. The linebackers look lost. It was rumored Howie was trying to make a move for a linebacker. He addressed the safety spot, but they attack Reed Blankenship. As much as we love Reed, he's not that great of a cover guy. If they put him in the right spot, he'll make a play and pick the ball off. But he was outside of that interception. He was all over the place. He was giving up passes left, right, and center. Sidney Brown cannot cover. He came up and made a nice stick and hit. Everyone's excited about that. He was lost all game too. And I know they're young and maybe they need time. I'm just concerned about that. And I think the Cowboys are going to attack that. And then it is going to be up to A.J. Brown and the Eagles' offense to find a way to beat this Cowboy defense. And maybe it's what you said, Joe. Maybe they do go back to a commitment to running the football with Cam Jurgens back. And now maybe we can balance a little more if this pass D is so good. You know, their defensive coordinator is smart. How am I forgetting his name? Buccaneers guy all them years. But with the Tampa 2, he's going to confuse Hurts. They're going to do schemes similar to the Jets and get him confused. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm thinking of the old guy. You're right, Dan Quinn, though.
Yeah, Dan Quinn. I was going to say, you mean the Falcons or something?
Falcons, correct. Head coach of the Falcons. My fault. So Dan Quinn is going to scheme up some things that are going to confuse the hell out of Hurts. So I don't think this is by any means. I no doubt the rivalry might have lost its rivalry, but we got a 5-2 Cowboys team coming in to play or 6-2 Cowboys team coming in to play a 7-1 Eagles team.
No, they're 5-2.
Oh yeah, they had the bye week, right?
They already had the bye, yeah.
So this is a big game. If we lose this, now they're atop the NFC East, and they're the front runners for the bye.
And I guess the other thing is kind of like what I was alluding to earlier is I don't want to say must win in any which way, but our hard part comes up. Their soft part of their schedule comes up. And, you know, but again, I'm not worried. I'm not trying to look ahead at all, but it does put a little thought of pressure in there. But ultimately, I agree with you. Let me ask you guys this question.
Hold on, Joe, before you get to that question, Joe, you kind of did a little head shake there. Who do you think's the front runner then at this point?
Oh no! I'm saying the Eagles will still be atop of the division. They'll be 7-2, and Dallas will be 6-2.
Ah, you are right. Sorry,
but we go into the bye week.
But once we go to the bye, we
would
fall right in.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right. But they would have the tiebreaker right after that bye.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, again, I'm very relaxed about this than I normally would be. I mean, let's be honest. If they lose to Dallas at home, your Monday morning is going to suck. You're just going to be down in the dumps. But, do they move Byard up a little bit, like a la Malcolm Jenkins a little bit, if they're struggling that much in the secondary, or if McCarthy and them are smart enough to really attack that secondary, because that's where most people have been attacking the Eagles, and either spreading the ball out, running guys out like jet sweep type plays, or like tight end dump passes, things where you're attacking those linebackers. Do you think they move Byard up at all in that situation now that you have a little bit more ability to do that with a little more depth in the safety position?
I think that number one, that is a very good possibility, but I also think that they could put Eli Ricks on the outside and move Bradbury into the slot so he has more of a presence, in the middle of that field.
I just think Bradbury struggled, though, when they did that. Eli Ricks has actually been pretty good in the slot. The Byard thing, Byard didn't have a bad game. The Redskins just said, we're throwing wherever Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown are, that's where we're attacking the middle of the field. That's what we're going to do today. Or wherever a linebacker matchup they can find. Bieniemy's a good offensive line coming from Reed. I don't. They may do that, but the question is the other side of the field. What are we going to do there?
If you're looking play from the Commanders and Dallas, who would you say is the bigger threat? Would it be Logan Thomas or Ferguson?
I'd say Logan Thomas. But
Yeah, me too. And I've seen. I mean, obviously, I watch all games other than Eagles. Like, I've seen Ferguson have some success, but I think I think that they have the personnel to be able to lock him up. Like, I understand that they can throw Cooks, slant through the middle, some speed there, but I mean, they can
Speedy Lamb
go.
lines up in the slot. He can play.
He does.
He'll catch
No,
the ball all day.
Funny enough is I was actually going to say like when we think of like a Vikings game, we know Justin Jefferson is going to get his. Like, I go into these games knowing that CeeDee Lamb is going to get his. Like, it's about containing everybody else around him. Like
keeping him out of the end zone. Like,
exactly.
Let him get his yards. Let him get his fantasy points. Keep him out of the end zone. I mean, that's where you beat Justin Jefferson this year.
Yeah.
Keep him out of the end zone. I mean, we all know, and it's kind of a simplistic thought process, but if you put pressure on Dak Prescott, he's going to make errant throws.
But that's the thing. If the blueprints get the ball out in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, like Sam Howell, we're not going to get pressure on Dak.
No, a good win with this would be probably player of the game, Hassan Reddick. If he keeps playing like the way he's been playing, it could be that could be your difference maker right there.
He's certainly a closer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, do you worry? Like if you're going in a shootout, Eagles versus Dallas, on an offensive standpoint, who has the upper hand?
Well, we're going to see if that Cowboy D is legit. I'll tell you that. I would say us, though. Sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I think that when you have a guy who's playing elite football right now in A.J. Brown, who has just set an NFL record, I mean, I think that the key to Dallas is just contain him. And if you're going to double on him, then that's going to leave somebody else open. Devontae had a nice game. I think it was a yard from under 100 and a score last week. Julio Jones, you're going to start seeing him up the middle as well, in my opinion. Like, they have options. That Dallas Goedert to get more involved. Once they start, really focusing in on A.J. Brown, there's going to be opportunities on the field. And guess what? That one or two plays where, they don't spy on him or double him up or whatever. He's going to be there to make them pay. Jalen puts those 50-50 balls up, in my opinion, perfectly. The second touchdown from last week, when he had it was underthrown a little bit. He knew AJ was going to come up and get that ball. Like, these two are on such the same level of playing field right now that it's really amazing to see right now. AJ Brown, that's the guy that they have to contain. And when it comes to that, or the other side of that, time of possession and cutting out the turnovers, that's what's going to lead them to a win.
Foles to Alshon-esque is what I was thinking on Sunday. Like, Foles has a good knack for the 50-50 ball too.
Yeah.
But you said it earlier, though. Well, first Steve brings this up. Is Carter playing?
He was a full.
All right, we're good there then. All right, then that's big. But you brought this up earlier. So I want to ask you, like, I always want them to commit to run with Swift, and I don't think Kenny Gainwell should even be on the field.
Me either.
You think they're going to commit to the run here this week?
I think they have to. I think that what we saw last week with the second half, making the adjustments, running the ball to set up the pass. Whenever they do that, they have success. I mean, they have to get this mindset out that they have to be a pass first, happy type of team. I understand that Jeffrey Lurie wants it. Howie Roseman may want it, but we've seen the proof is in the pudding. Damn it! When they run the ball and they set up the throw, that's when they have the most success. And we've already seen the sample size of what DeAndre Swift can do with 20 touches behind this offensive line. I mean, he's running for 175 yards a game. I mean, this is the type of football team that they need to be, that this offense needs to be. Of course, they're going to pass the ball a lot, but they need to be able to set up the run behind the best offensive line in the game. The offensive line is there to protect the quarterback, but also to open up the run, for the running back, for the backfield. This is what this team needs to do going forward. We always complain about the adjustments. This is the main adjustment everyone is always talking about.
They remind me of Marty Morningweg, dude. It makes me so mad. Like, Morningweg under Reed would be nauseating when he would do that. He would do this all the time. They even Doug to a point. Doug's first year, I remember he threw the ball to Carson like 60 times as a rookie in Cincinnati. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, take the pressure off your quarterback.
When Jalen Hurts is throwing for 50 to 55 attempts a game, that should be a red flag. That should be a red flag right there. I mean, you know what? That's probably why they lost to the Jets.
It's a big factor, especially when I don't want to go down the Jets rabbit hole, but like you have 3rd and whatever it was, 8 on the 2-minute warning. You just run the ball. You let it go to the 2-minute warning. You punt. Your defense was killing it. But yeah, like dumb stuff like that is like the difference between like a championship team and one that's not. And it's like, I'm trying to let Brian Johnson learn here. I loved when he did it in the Vikings game, but like he just continues to like do head scratching things. And you know, the Commanders, you can come back and win. I don't know against good football teams that's going to happen. We'll see.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is you know, the other day or yesterday during the trade deadline approaching at 4:00, people are still tweeting saying, "Oh, the Eagles have to go out and get a running back. Oh, they should go out and get Derrick Henry." Like, okay, why are they going to do that when they don't run the ball? Why would they go out and give this high compensation draft picks, whatever player name or enter name here? Why would they do that? And when they don't run the ball, when if you're going to run the ball, we already know who is the bell cow, their RB1 and DeAndre Swift. And even yesterday when they came out and said, "Oh, Kenny Gainwell is not being traded or anything like that," it's because he's our RB2. Remember when they were saying there is no RB1 for this team? And then DeAndre Swift comes out, and at one moment in the season, he was just under Christian McCaffrey for the most rushing yards in the league. And now Nick Sirianni wants to say there, "Oh, Gainwell is our WB2. Why? Because he's our best WB2, and DeAndre Swift is our best running back." Well, then give him the gosh darn ball. I mean,
here's the other thing, and I think it's forgotten about. When you play a good team, a good defensive line, like the Dallas Cowboys, it's not always about getting 150 yards of rushing or 175 yards of rushing and 2 touchdowns. It's about beating up on that defensive line because it's about the end of the game. That's what I look at when I run the ball. Like a lot of people go, and I think that's where Brian Johnson goes wrong. He looks like, we're really not gashing them too much. We're not, and I feel like he gives up on it. Like that's the end of it. Like, but the point is, it sets it up. It makes the other team get back on their heels if they, do they rush Jalen Hurts? Are they worried about him throwing the ball? They're worried about, and with that read option, that plays into the Eagles' favor hugely with beating up on that defensive line, letting DeAndre Swift there. And like I said, that's what makes this team good because they can hurt you in the air or they can hurt you on the ground. And if you're going to try to take AJ Brown away, you're going to probably let DeAndre Swift have a game too. It's not just if you have AJ Brown, it's Devontae Smith. If it's not Devontae Smith, it's Dallas Goedert or Julio Jones or whatever. It's going to be okay. Well, you're going to try to take the running away or the throwing away. Well, guess what? We're just going to pound the ball on you, and that's what I'm saying. Even if they're not getting it, he has to throw a couple in there and pound away on that defensive line. You control the tempo of the game. You control the time of possession. And that's how you throw teams off. That's what I said exactly about Miami. And it's kind of the same thing. Now, Miami has faster track team type wide receivers.
Faster everybody.
Yeah, but I think their water boys like the fastest in the league or something like that. It's crazy. But my point is like you kind of have to take the same mentality with them. Like you want to run the ball, you want to slow things down, you want to control the time of possession because when you take almost a whole first quarter and you score on it, it takes the potency of that high-powered Dallas offense out of the game. And that's why, like taking the ball or deferring the ball, a lot of people defer the ball because they want that extra possession, especially in the second half. I think when you defer the ball and you take that risk, there's kind of double both sides of the coin on that.
You know what? One of the things I love about DeAndre Swift is he's always fighting for that extra yard. You saw him in this past game put his shoulder down and truck somebody for an extra yard or two. That's the type of player that we want out on that field. Give him the ball. I mean, we've already seen what this kid can do. It's frustrating.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. And Dallas is middle of the pack, high middle of the pack. So it's not like they give up 4.1 yards per carry. I think they're definitely a squad we're going to be able to run on, or at least have to attempt it. I mean, I'll be so mad if they come out throwing like I guess if it's successful, I'll shut my mouth.
Well,
but it's just like
that's what the Commanders did to us. If you think about it, they weren't running on it. Like here, I got the numbers here. I mean, Robinson had 10 attempts for 59 yards, so that's not bad. Gibson had 2 attempts for 14 yards, and then the next one's Sam Howell. But my point is, they weren't gashing you. They got 84 yards between the two backs. But the point is,
seemed like more than that.
It seemed like it, but it was actually 84 yards, including Sam Howell. So it was 73 yards altogether between the two backs, I should say. But the thing is, they didn't give up on it, which A, controlled some of the time of possession, and B, kept us honest, and then allowed a guy like Sam Howell to get to a guy like Terry McLaurin and hurt us. That's why that game's close. So, I mean, Washington isn't doing anything crazily smart. They're just kind of sticking to the plan, and give it to Del Rio for being able to do that.
Crazily, is that a word?
Yeah, sure it is now.
Crazily smart.
I'm going to run with it. Speaking of, if you get guys, life-altering things happen every day in your life. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, you name it, it can happen to anybody. Criminal law. Guess what? David Archeri is the man with a plan to save your butt in these tough times. So if you need somebody to fight for your rights, you go to cherryinjurylaw.com for the Cherry firm, or call Dave Cherry directly at 610-565-0300, or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. The phone number again, 610-565-0300. All right, boys, we're getting to the end of the show. Any well, the one thing I want to touch on a couple things. One thing is NFC Offensive Player of the Week, Jalen Hurts, with his 29 for 38 attempts, 76% completion rate there, 319 yards, 4 TDs, no interception, passer rating of 135.7. Now Dak actually had a good game as well. He was a 133.7, so just a couple points off of each other in that one. But Player of the Week was Jalen Hurts.
Take that, Dak.
Take that. Yeah, we talked about it. Jalen Carter, it was a full participant. If him and Jordan Davis are both playing, that's a big plus in the Eagles column there. And it's Cam Jurgens. I mean, Joe, you put the post out. You saw the yards per carry differential from when Cam was in and Cam was out was a huge difference. So, hopefully we can see some Cam Jurgens action this weekend.
Yeah, and I want to go back to this trade deadline real quick, because Eagles fans, I know how passionate our fan base is, but there's also a lot of idiots out there, and Fred, you put up a Twitter post, you're like, oh, unreal, fire Howie, and of course that's a joke, and I knew as I was reading it, I knew it was a joke. But there are really people out there who feel that way, and it's like, wait a minute, they had I can't even describe in words how big of a question mark they had at the safety position, and they went out and they got one of the bigger names out there who is proven. And I mean, he's a Philly kid. He's a Philly native. He's coming back home to play. And people also forget about Bradley Roby. I understand that he's injured right now, but that is another, addition that Howie made. Of course, Julio Jones, who was already contributed. Like, just because the Eagles didn't do anything on the last day of the deadline does not mean that Howie hasn't been doing stuff to improve this roster. And people forget that because it was like the buyer trade was a week prior, and maybe it's the genius of Howie Roseman doing it a week prior, because there wasn't a big auction pretty much on the deadline, and his compensation price going way up. So maybe that's the genius of Howie Roseman, and not waiting to the last day of the trade deadline. Idiots.
Yeah,
Moron.
I think people just love the drama part of it more than the actual what's going on.
Yes, definitely.
Such an exciting day to just it's good he didn't make a trade. Other GMs probably had ridiculous asking prices, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right. We couldn't just be happy with Harden being gone. We had to turn on our 7-1, top of the division, top of the NFL, Philadelphia Eagles, and we're going to sit here and we're going to bastardize Howie Roseman because he made moves weeks prior to the actual deadline.
Yeah, and got him in for an extra game more than everybody else is.
So, exactly. The damn dude already played a game.
So we won't make any real predictions here, but guys, what are your predictions in the sense of how this game goes? Do you feel it's going to be a close game? Do you what are your feelings going into Sunday? Fred, I'll start with you.
I think ultimately this game comes down to the offensive line and the play calling kind of coincided. So this team is a very good run blocking team when they want to run the football. Probably the best in the NFL. I know Mailata is rated as the top PFF lineman in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
But pass blocking, we're not as good. And I don't know if that's Hurts holding on to the ball. I don't know if that's scrambling, but we've given up 19 sacks and 87 pressures. Going up against Micah Parsons, along with this Dallas defensive line, I think that's going to be the key to the game. And if we're able to not – sacks lead to turnovers also, because then quarterback starts seeing ghosts, makes bad decisions. If we can run the football, keep it balanced, not give up a ton of sacks, I think that leads to less turnovers and ultimately a better game offensively, which will be able to score more points than Dallas, because I don't think – it looks like Dallas is starting to get it rolling offensively. I don't know that we're going to be able to stop them, so I think we're going to have to outscore this team. Like, it's going to be more of a scoring game than it would be a defensive game to win.
Yeah, and I think, Fred, to piggyback on your point of the offensive line, they said during the Commanders game that the Eagles in the first 8 games of the season have already had 8 or 9 different combinations of linemen on that O-line. And I think getting Juergens back for this week is just – I think it's perfect timing. Getting your O-line fully healthy at this time, against this team, this challenger is just, it speaks volumes. And it is going to come down to the O-line because of how many sacks they've been giving up. You have to keep Jalen Hurts upright and healthy, and you also have to give him enough time to either sling it down the field or, take the ball out of his hands and create the hole for the backfield to take advantage of. So it will come down to the offensive line. I do worry about the defense a bit about, stopping the pass of Dallas, but I do think the Eagles are going to win. I think it's going to be tight. I think it could come down to a turnover, deep in the fourth to kind of, really solidify it. I'm not going to give a score. I do think the Eagles win going into the bye.
Okay. I think where it's going to come down to, and I know it's kind of silly to say it this way, but of course, because usually, but it's the limiting the turnovers, especially against Dallas. Because if you look at Dallas's games when they blew teams out, a lot of the scores, especially in the beginning, even against LA, a lot of it was defensive scores that got the offensive rolling. And when they started rolling all together, that's when they really pounced on teams. But when Dallas was kept down to just doing their offense and offense only, that's when they lost games. Cardinals figured that out. And then the Niners, of course, they shut down Dak, and the defense, they didn't make any, and their offense didn't make any mistakes, and they handily handled the Cowboys. And I think that's where your game plan is you got to be smart with the ball and not give them any free scores on the defense. You can do that. I think you can handle the Cowboys offense from there.
Just do exactly what the Cardinals did and you'll win.
It's been working out for them so well outside the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you still got DeMarcus Lawrence too, and then one other matchup. He's got 3 sacks. Their interior tackle there, I can't pronounce his last name, Usa Udejizua. But he's got 3 sacks, and that's a lot for a defensive tackle this early on in the season.
He also goes by the name Jerkoff.
Fuzzy. I guess
that's what I heard.
Cowboys
that's what I heard.
Edge is starting to rub off. But Juergens coming back, that health-wise, that's going to be a tough matchup for him. But we'll see. But yeah, I agree though. I didn't say I think the Eagles do win and it will come down. I think it'll be a fourth quarter drive, a little clutch Jalen fourth quarter drive.
All right, guys, remind you that here is the lineup here at EoP. A lot going on as usual. Tonight, of course, we were on. Killing Me Smalls was on earlier. You had Philly Press Box Radio. with Tim Kelly from Phillies Nation, and former Flyer Joe Watson was in the house talking to them. And then right after we get done, I'm sure the Clear the Ice will be getting going. So check it out Thursday lineup. We got a new show, Fly Like an Eagle podcast with Mitch Koski coming up. Don't forget Mike's Locker Room Sports with Mike Lauro. He has Farzetta on his show this week. And plus Attacking Third, we talking about all the Union playoffs and so much more coming up this week. So check it out. Go to EoPSports.com. Sign up for the newsletter as well. Comes out on Fridays. And any parting words, gentlemen?
I don't. F the World Series. I don't even know what's going on with it. In fact, I think it's on right now.
No, it is on.
I'm still so butthurt.
Dallas
sucks. It is on.
Dallas sucks. Of course, Dallas sucks.
If they right now the Rangers are up 1-0 in the top of the 7th. If they win, this is over. Rangers are your World Series champions, I believe. Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's 3-1. Rangers are 3-1 in the series.
Okay.
So the Rangers hold on to that lead and finish it out. By the end of tonight, they will be your World Series champions.
Anyone but the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. Other than that, I'm Big Al.
I'm Joe Sheeran.
Dallas sucks.
That's right. Dallas sucks. Take it easy, guys. Have a good night.